Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, I really want to answer a question that I get often, and that is about your age and how it could impact your cadet application. So if you're somebody who is aspiring to be a pilot and you're wondering, could my age impact my chances of succeeding and getting selected on any cadet program? Well, that is the question I will try to answer in this video. One thing I want you to understand is that I am a pilot. I've been in the industry for about 15 years plus now, and my goal is to pass on any helpful information and, of course, maybe speed up your own process of achieving your dreams of becoming a pilot, if that is really what you want. Now, one thing I want you to also understand is that, of course, I'm not trying to recruit you to any airline, if that makes sense, or promote any airline over the other. I just want to share information based on my knowledge, based on my experience, and based on some facts that are out there. So here is something that I want you to think about. All right. If you are somebody who is thinking of applying to cadet programs, or you've applied in the past and you didn't get through and you're wondering, was my age a factor? Maybe I'm too old. Maybe they are discriminating against, me for age reasons. You probably have your own reasons, and I'm not going to try to convince you, but I just want to share what I know. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for clicking on this one. So let's get to the video. All right, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to turn on the notification bell and all that good stuff. You see it all on your screen, so please do that for me. So let's get to it. All right, I will share something with you right here. So what we have right here is some of the requirements from different airlines regarding their cadet programs. All right, and one thing I also want you to think about is this cadet program, is it fully funded? Because I didn't cover all airlines in this small slide that I put together, but I want you to think about that. If you're applying to an airline that is a fully funded program, then you have to think about it. Think about the fact that your age could, I'm not saying will, could be a factor in all of this. All right, which means could be considered. All right. But I don't want you to put that as fact unless it is written out there. Okay, so let's look at some of the things out here. This is from Aer Lingus. All right, this is from their cadet program eligibility requirement page, and you can see it says to be at least 18 years of age on or before 1st of September 2026. This is from the British Airways cadet program as well. Speedbird pilot cadet program. As you can see, this one says be 17 to 55 years of age to apply and 18 to start training. Okay, and here we got TUI, all right, TUI got 18 years of age on or before 10th of February 2025. This is for the last one. So for 2026, it will be slightly different, but it's probably going to be similar as well. Instead of February 2025, it will be February 2026. All right, we got this one is Cathay Pacific, and I kind of threw in different regions as well into this. We got here, it says aged 18 years or above, right? That is what is stipulated here. Okay, we got Indigo, right? Air India is also part of this as well. They have similar requirements, but this is minimum age of 18. They have a maximum age of 35 years on last date of application. Okay, and of course we got Qatar. All right, if that's how you say it, I hope I said it right. It says must be above the age of 17 years and below 27 years at the time of application. From the few that I've seen here, it is obvious that your age can be a factor. I threw in another one here. This is United Aviate in the US. Be at least 18 years of age. There's no maximum age stipulated in here. But one thing that you need to understand, okay, is that every region does have somewhat of a maximum age. And when I say maximum age, I'm talking about the retirement age. So to be a pilot, right? So in most places, it's 65. Some places have 60. I've seen, I think 65 is the highest I've seen anyway. I think there's 60 as well. So some regions do have 60, some regions have 65. So obviously, the closer you are to that retirement age, the lower your chances of getting into a cadet program. So Generally speaking, based on my experience of talking about cadet programs, based on the questions I've received, most people always fall in the range of their 30s and 40s. So I just went with a round number here. So you're age 40, thinking of applying to a cadet program, and you're wondering, could my age impact my chances? Because generally, like I said, some people are a little lower than that, some people are a little higher than that, some are actually 40. I've seen those, and you wonder, like, could this be a factor? So let me address something with you right here. Okay, we're going to talk about some concerns shortly, but something I want you to understand is that you have to think about, remember what I said earlier, is this a fully funded program? If it's a fully funded program, that means the airline is committing to train you, to sponsor you, to pretty much and hire you. And there's some things that the airline will look at, obviously, from a business standpoint. So that is something that I want you to think of as you try to figure out if this is the best route to take at this age. But in addition to that, I do have some concerns to share with you. So the first thing that I want you to think about is, remember, we are applying to an airline, all right? And one of the things that they will always ask you of or want to know and really understand is your motivation as to why you're applying to the program, or your motivation as to why you want to be a pilot at this age. So again, remember, you could be in the higher, low 30s, in the 40s, right? The first thing they want to establish is, what is the motivation to pursue a career in aviation at this stage? That is something that you will need to understand, be able to confidently talk about, and make sure it's a convincing, speech or spiel, or however you want to call it. Because at the end of the day, the airline, and this is assumed that you make it to the interview stage, of course, right? But the key thing that the airline wants to do is that they are putting all this money on you to train you, and they want to know that this is not something that you start and stop after some time, because guess what? It's going to be a loss for them. So they want to minimize the losses that they would experience, assuming they hire a lot of people that are at a older age. Generally speaking, when you're at a older age, you've probably done something for the majority of your time, right, prior to that age. And now maybe you're just somebody who would all of a sudden stumble on aviation and, this might be cool, let me try it out. That motivation, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing, but that motivation isn't grounded in maybe knowledge, or maybe just something that is truly that you're passionate about. And that is why the airline may want to do more scrutiny on you to make sure that you are somebody who is highly motivated for the job or for the training, so that you can succeed. That is the key thing, because when you succeed, they succeed in what they are trying to do, right? If you don't succeed, it's a loss for them. So that is something that you need to consider. And that is why when I talk about your interviews, your motivation needs to be really obvious, all right, in choosing a career in aviation, especially as you get older. Then in relation to, in the aspect of interviews, something that you also need to understand is that a lot of times, due to your experiences in your previous job, previous career, they could actually hinder you from transitioning into the flight deck. If you're somebody who's worked alone for a very long time, you may not have the skills required to be a team player. If you're somebody who's worked with a lot of, let me use this as an example, engineers, for example, they generally tend to sometimes work alone, all right, working on projects and stuff like that. And sometimes they work in teams, don't get me wrong. But what I'm going at is, or what I'm trying to get at is, sometimes those technical backgrounds actually could hinder your ability to integrate well in the cockpit or in the flight deck. Hence the reason why sometimes this age factor becomes a thing when they are making their decisions on candidates, right? I'm not saying that they are discriminating because of your age. It's more about how you can transition into the environment, the skills you bring on board, and if those skills could hinder you. And remember, they sometimes will not see that through your CV, right? Yes, they see your experience on your CV, but when you show up to that interview and you talk about your experiences and they give you scenarios and the way you answer them will let them see if you truly have what it takes. And hence the reason why your interview, it will be a big factor in this over the age. Your age is something to consider, right? But what really makes the difference, age is your experiences. Your experiences could be the reason why you may be denied in this process. The next one is your medical fitness or medical/fitness. Okay. So one thing that we know in most regions, we have the first class pilot certificate or medical certificate that you always need to have in order to work with an airline. All right. And of course, there are so many restrictions or at least standards that needs to be met in order to maintain the medical. As we know, one of the things that we are aware of is as you age, this becomes a factor, an important one, especially because most people, right, you may not have taken your medical or your fitness seriously over the years. And then coming into a cadet program that is going to sponsor you, and they know that, hey, depending on what your conditions are, which they wouldn't know those information ahead of time. That means they would have to bet on you that you're good, you're in good medical standards and condition, and hopefully before starting training, get your medical certificate issued to you, or at least go through the medical screening. The issue about this is that as you get older, conditions do pop up. Let's be honest about that. That is the truth. And a lot of times people find themselves, especially in any airline, as you get older, that's when they go on leave of absences, medical leaves, things like that, right? They have to take breaks. The point here is your fitness becomes a little bit more paramount at that point. Hence the reason why a lot of airlines tend to want to minimize their exposure to hiring a lot of older folks, especially when they are going to sponsor you. I am not saying that, that it can't, but they minimize the number of people that fall into that age bracket. Because guess what? If everybody takes leave of absence due to some condition going on or whatever, right, the airline will not function, or they just carry a lot of cost at that point. And that is just the fact of doing business. Hence the reason why you as a person needs to take your medical, or at least you should prioritize your medical, your fitness, especially if you believe aviation is something that you still are interested in and you want to pursue, because it is critical to your career. Next one will be your ability to learn quickly. This is a factor that needs to be said. Okay, the older you are, the harder it is for you to change your habits, and that means that your ability to learn, to acquire new skill, all those things starts to diminish. The rate at which you can acquire new skills starts to diminish. Then let's also add some responsibilities. You have a family, you have things that you want to take care of. It is a lot harder for you to do those things when you, at least to learn a new skill, go through training, be away for 18 months without distractions when you're much older, right? So it's not that it's impossible. It is just the reality of life. And hence the reason why when you are considering this programs and you're thinking about applying to them, you need to have a strong motivation, right? Your why needs to be very strong, because they will ask you questions, especially on maybe how do you plan to handle the finances? What are your plans on taking a pay cut? How do you plan to survive? Especially when you're at that age, it becomes a lot more important, because what they don't want is for you to start training and be stressed out about finances and be stressed out about what is going on back at home, because you are away for a while. Now there will be breaks in between, but the reality remains that you will still be away for most of it. So this ties back to the interview questions that you may get. Part of the questions they can ask you is, what have you done to prepare for this, right? So you have to have a solid reason to give them, and preferably tell them actual numbers and how you've prepared for that. Because if you are unable to actually tell them something that is convincing, they don't want to take you through this and put you and your family in a situation that is undesirable, right? That won't be good for anybody. Hence the reason why you have to have a solid reason to even pursue this from the get-go. So this next one is somewhat not talked about, but it is important we talk about it. And that is ROI, return on investment. All right. Think about it this way. Again, remember what I said at the beginning of this video. If it's a fully funded program, the way you look at this becomes even more important, because an airline will spend roughly 70,000 pounds, maybe 100,000 pounds, maybe dollars as well, on someone, right? and they are thinking about how long is it going to take and how quickly can they get their return on this investment. Okay, the more time you have in terms of from the time you start working for the airline to your retirement age, the better it is for the airline. So let me play a quick timeline for you, right? For somebody who is, let's say, 30, right? That person still has about 35 years to reach 65. 35 years is a long time, right? Which means that person will go from starting as a first officer, move on to being a captain, maybe move on to bigger airplanes, and as they climb seniority, as they gain seniority, and of course maybe become a check airman or chief pilot, whatever position the person may desire as they progress in their career. That is a good return on investment. Now let's think about somebody who is 50. That person has 15 years left, right, to reach 65, which means that this person, from that age, from 50, before they actually finish training, before they actually get comfortable on the airplane, before they finally upgrade to become a captain, and then let's say moving on to other airplanes, they don't have a lot of time, right? Not that it's impossible, they just don't have a lot of time. And what the airline would want is somebody who can actually mentor new people, whether on it's on a specific fleet of aircraft, or somebody who is actually just well experienced enough over the years to pass on their experiences to new generation pilots that the airline is hiring, and pass on the culture that the airline really believes in. Things of that nature are things that the airline would definitely want, and those are literally the return on investment for the airline. Yes, the actual dollar value or pound value or euro value can be calculated for those people, because they spent, let's say, $100,000. They want to make sure they can get their money back plus more, right? What about the culture? What about the experiences, the knowledge, operating in and out of complex airports, operating more advanced airplanes? The ability to have somebody who is senior, who is experienced, and has the skills and the knowledge to pass on to new generation pilots is also critical to the stability of the airline. So all of that is part of return on investment in some form or the other, whether it's in real dollar value or it's actually in the knowledge and just passing on the torch to the next person. Now, last but not least is longevity with the airline. This is very similar to what I shared with you earlier. All right. A lot of times you can, start with an airline and spend a lot more years with the airline because of the time you started, the age you started. And that is a plus, right? That's what the airline wants. They want those kind of people because, again, it's easier for the airline to plan. It's easier for the airline to train people and mentor people. Longevity is critical to how the airline looks like this. So now here's the thing. What can you do? One thing I want you to understand is that I don't want you to be discouraged about this, because the reality is that you have the ability to pursue this currently, right? You have cadet programs, you have options out there. If you feel that maybe, for some reason you're not getting through, then have you considered the sponsored route, self-sponsored route, right? That's an option that you can pursue. But the other thing also is that what you can also do is to ensure that, the things I mentioned earlier, your motivation, the why that you have, why you want to work for an airline, why you want to be a pilot, why you're just pursuing this now at this age, you have to have those things down well. If you have them down well, trust me, it will come through during your interviews. It will come through during your motivation write-up that you may have to do. To come through in how you approach your training, which helps to ensure that you succeed. At age 40, 50, it's never too late, right? Because that is the time you are ready to pursue it. That's just how life is, right? Sometimes you're not ready to do something until you're ready. And you just have to give it your best shot. That is the truth about it. Now, if you're younger, all right, if you're in the younger bracket, then take advantage of the time that you have. Go all in, right? When I say go all in, especially if you're in regions with these programs available to you. The other thing I want you to also remember is that the more experiences you have, the higher your chances of actually showing skills, all right? Whether it's the professionalism, whether it's the knowledge, whether it's your ability to lead a team and be a team player, all those things, right? The competencies that we talk about. The more experiences you have, the better it is for you, and the more you have things to talk about. So what I want you to think about is you are walking away with this from this video knowing that you have the ability to be selected. The BA program has selected people in their 40s. I think there's only 50 if I remember correctly. I'm not sure about that. They've selected people that are 18, right? 18 years old, they're all in. So just because you're young doesn't mean it's a deterrent or something that will prevent you from getting through. And just because you're in your 40s doesn't mean that you can't be selected. Okay. Last but not least, if you've watched it up until this point, check out my other videos that will pop up here or there. And please don't forget to drop a like on this video. I'd love to see you in a future one.